Hello everyone, welcome. My name's Megan. I am recording today my presentation on behalf of Community Education Services. So I'm just going to stop my video and pull up my PowerPoint now. Okay, so today I'm going to be talking about mindfulness and self-compassion theory and practices for parents. Just very briefly, I've just completed my master's in counseling psychology, and I am pursuing registration and work as a psychologist. I do have a research history in parenting and parental coping, as well as self-compassion. So before we jump in, I would like to do a land acknowledgement. So I am speaking to you today from Calgary. So I would like to take this opportunity to acknowledge the traditional territories of the people of the Treaty 7 region in southern Alberta, which includes the Blackfoot Confederacy, comprising the Siksika, Piikani, and Kainai First Nations, as well as the Tsuut'ina First Nation, and the Stoney Nakoda, including the Chiniki, Bearspaw, and Wesley First Nations. The city of Calgary is also home to Métis Nation of Alberta, Region 3. I would also like to note that the University of Calgary is situated on land adjacent to where the Bow River meets the Elbow River, and that the traditional Blackfoot name of this place is Mohkinstsis, which we now call the city of Calgary. So today I am going to talk a little bit about the origins of mindfulness and self-compassion. I'll then introduce mindfulness. We'll do a few mindfulness exercises before I introduce self-compassion. We'll do a self-compassion exercise, talk a little bit about practical tips for introducing new skills or behavior change into our lives, and then we'll do a closing meditation. So I would like to note that this presentation will focus more on practices that you can incorporate into your life as opposed to theory. So I do have references to research, and we'll talk a little bit, like I mentioned, of the origins, but we will be doing a few different exercises that incorporate mindfulness and self-compassionate practices. So looking at the origins of mindfulness and self-compassion. Both concepts originate from Buddhist philosophy and teachings. Mindfulness has been described as clear knowing, or Buddha talked about mindfulness as the direct path to the extinguishing of suffering and path to liberation, which he called nirvana. So mindfulness can be described as a formal meditation practice and as a way of being, but it can also be practiced more informally in daily life by bringing awareness to your attention and experiences. It's described as a process of observing and befriending your own mind, body, and experiences. Moving into self-compassion, so we're going to look at compassion first. So compassion also originates from Buddhist practice. And traditionally, when you were practicing compassion, it was a practice where you directed compassion outwards towards all living beings, so other human beings, towards animals, towards plants. Anything living, when you were practicing compassion, was receiving that compassion. Looking more at self-compassion, so self-compassion is a more recent construct, originally proposed by Dr. Kristen Neff in 2003. And self-compassion takes concepts from mindfulness and compassion and directs it inwards towards the self. So from that perspective, it's a more intentional act where you're directing compassion inwards towards yourself. So as I mentioned, self-compassion is a newer practice, and it's becoming recognized by some modern Buddhist practitioners, but it didn't stem as far back into the traditional teachings like mindfulness and compassion did, which can be traced back into teachings that are thousands of years old. Jumping into mindfulness. So mindfulness is a practice that involves bringing your awareness to your internal states, so your thoughts, emotions, physical sensations, as well as external states, so interactions and environment. Mindfulness can be thought of as paying attention on purpose in the present moment, non-judgmentally. So when we're paying attention and we're listening, watching, or considering what naturally exists, we're being intentional to increase our awareness of the experience. We're focused on the here and now, and we're being curious and objective about the experience. So it's really important, and I'd like to highlight using a non-judgmental and open-minded approach when we're noticing what's going on inside of our bodies and in our environment. It's a practice of noticing and experiencing the present moment without judging it, and noticing what we are experiencing in our body, emotions, and thoughts. Looking more specifically at practicing mindfulness, if we're using the example of focusing on our breath, we would begin by becoming aware of our breath. So this would include noticing different sensations in the nose, throat, lungs, and belly as we breathe in and breathe out. Once we've done that for a little bit, we can expand our awareness to our body, emotions, and thoughts that we notice arise. So feelings we notice could include pain, pleasure, heat, cold, tension, or relaxation. Emotions that we notice could include fear, anger, sadness, happiness. And thoughts can include sentences, word fragments, or images. Please keep in mind all of these are just examples, and there are many more feelings, emotions, thoughts, and things that you can notice in your own practice of mindfulness. And what we want to do is we want to be able to experience and be aware of whatever is happening for us through our bodily sensations, emotions, and thoughts. But my life is busy and I don't have a lot of spare time. How is mindfulness going to benefit me? How can I start to practice mindfulness? These are great questions. As parents, I know a lot of parents are really, really busy, don't often have a lot of free time, and often the thought of mindfulness is that you have to be sitting in a quiet room, perhaps with your legs crossed on a pillow, practicing meditation. And though this is one form of mindfulness, there are many different ways that you can practice mindfulness and ways that you can incorporate it into your daily practice without having to schedule a specific time to do it or without it being very time consuming. So the first question, how will mindfulness benefit me? And these are taken from research on parents and mindfulness. So mindfulness can help bring your attention to the present moment. So this is helpful. Often we can get caught up in thoughts or emotions or things we have to do. So it can be helpful to be able to kind of take a step back and be able to come and be in the here and now. Can help you consider alternate perspectives. So for example, perhaps you're having a conflict with your child and you're feeling really angry because they weren't listening. If we were to practice mindfulness in this moment, perhaps our mindfulness practice could help us take a step back from our own experience of anger and frustration and help us consider our child's experience. This process might lead to a different interaction or outcome that might be more beneficial or desired outcome for both yourself and your child. Mindfulness can also help us become aware of your emotions or thoughts. So again, the first step in wanting to choose a different direction or engage in a different behavior is we first have to become aware of what we're feeling and what we're thinking. So mindfulness is a great tool to do that. And again, it helps with emotion regulation. So ultimately, it can help with our own well-being as well as our interactions and experiences with others. So how can I start to practice mindfulness? So my recommendation would be to start small and include steps that you can add into your daily routine with little effort. So I'm going to talk to you now about a few different exercises that can be incorporated into your daily lives that aren't very time consuming and they're not too complicated, especially if you're new to this practice of mindfulness. So the first one I'm going to talk to you about is take 10 breaths. And I'm going to go over the instructions first, and then we're actually going to do this practice together. So what we're going to do is we'll take 10 slow, intentional breaths. We're going to breathe out slowly, emptying out your breath and allowing your lungs to refill automatically. I'm going to encourage you to bring your attention to the sensation as you breathe out, as they refill, and as your chest and shoulders rise and fall. Let your thoughts come and go as if they are leaves floating by on a stream. And try to increase your awareness to notice other sensations in your body and in your external environment. So I'm going to start with my feet flat and sitting in a comfortable position. You can do this with your eyes open or closed. And I'd encourage you to choose a natural breathing rate so you don't have to do the same pace as me. I'm going to cue you back in after there's been time to take about 10 breaths. So let's begin. Wonderful. Finishing up that last breath if you need to, and then coming back into the room. I'd like you to take a moment to notice how that experience was for you. Are you familiar with intentional breathing? Was this your first time? Do you feel any different in your body? Maybe less tense? Okay. So now we're going to move into our next activity. So this one is called Notice 5 Things. And again, I'll explain it, and then I'm going to talk you through it. So while I'm talking through what I'm noticing, you can either do it on your own or just listen along. So the purpose of this exercise is to use our senses to notice things in our immediate environment. So how you do it is you first look around and notice 5 things you can see. Listen and notice 5 things that you can hear. Notice 5 things that you can feel. And then if applicable, notice 5 things you can smell and notice 5 things you can taste. So the purpose of this is to kind of ground you or bring your attention to the present moment and your environment. So now I'm going to talk through my notice 5 things in the environment I'm in. So I'm currently in my living room, and if I look around, I can notice some of my plants. I notice my living room couch. I notice the window. I can see the curtains. and I can see my front door. Now I'm going to listen and try and notice 5 things I can hear. My environment's a little quiet, so I probably won't get to all 5, but I can hear the quiet hum of my refrigerator. I can hear a dog barking in the distance, and I can hear the hum of traffic on a busy road close to my house. Noticing 5 things I can feel. I can feel my sweater against my arm. I can feel my feet on the ground. I can feel my back against the chair. I can feel some tension in my shoulders. And I can feel the blanket against my leg. For smell, so I made candles the other day, so I can smell the tropical fragrance of the candles as they set. And for taste, I have a slight taste of the green tea that I was drinking this morning, resonating in my mouth. So another mindfulness exercise is practicing mindfulness in different routines. So this exercise can be applied to different activities in your life. So these would be things that you do quite often, if not daily. Brushing your teeth, commuting to work, listening to music. And what you want to try and do is bring your full attention to the experience. So for example, let's say your morning shower. Again, using your different senses to notice what's going on around you and what experiences you're having internally. So you might notice the sound of the water. You might notice the temperature of the water. You might notice the smell of the soap or shampoo. You might notice the water droplets running down the shower wall or steam clinging to the shower door. And one of the nice things about this activity is that it doesn't require you to go out of your way to find time to do a new mindfulness exercise. Rather, it's about incorporating mindfulness into an activity or behavior that you already do on a regular basis. And again, this can be done for many different experiences during your morning routine, and chores, you have a pleasant activity, perhaps outside walking your dog. So the opportunities for this are really endless and based on what fits for you and what your day-to-day looks like. But my mind wanders all the time. So this is a very common experience for someone that they might notice when starting to engage in mindfulness, and it is totally normal. We live in a very, very fast-paced culture. We live in a fast-paced society. As parents, I imagine you have a lot going on. So if you do start to practice mindfulness and notice that this happens, I just encourage you to note what thought or sensation distracted you, and gently and non-judgmentally bring your attention back to what you were focusing on before. So for example, if we think back to that 10 breaths exercise we just did, say your mind was wandering and you were thinking about everything that you need to get done. So focus on that to-do list. You could just note, I noticed that my mind's wandered and I'm thinking about my to-do list right now. I'm going to go back and focus on the sensation I experience when I'm breathing in and the air is coming through my nose, or how my belly softly rises as I breathe in. So again, you can notice and observe, but I'd encourage you to try not to be not judgmental or harsh with yourself if you are noticing that sometimes you get distracted, because this is normal. And this is a practice skill that takes time to learn. And even then, you might still find yourself distracted. So now we're going to listen to a mindfulness meditation, which again is breath focused. And again, don't worry if you had troubles concentrating or if your mind wandered. For the 10 breath exercise, this is a new skill and it's not.
The following is a guided breathing meditation. Allowing yourself to find a comfortable position with your head, neck, and spine aligned and comfortable, and with your arms and legs in a position that feels just right for you. And so as you allow your mind and your body to become still and quiet, just bring your attention to the fact that you are breathing and becoming aware of the movement of the breath as it enters your body and as it leaves your body. Not manipulating your breathing in any way right now, not trying to change it, simply being aware of it and being aware of the feelings associated with breathing. And with your next inhalation, imagining that you are breathing in peace, calmness, and tranquility. And with your next exhalation, imagining that you are breathing out any tension, any tightness or anxiety or discomfort that you may be feeling right now. Inhaling peace, calmness, and tranquility, and exhaling any tension, anxiety, or discomfort that you may be feeling. And for the next few minutes, just giving full attention and full care to each in-breath and to each out-breath as they flow one after another in a never-ending, life-giving cycle. If you find that your mind has wandered from time to time, just gently drawing your attention and your focus back to your breath, feeling the air as it enters your nose or your mouth, travels down the back of your throat into your chest, feeling your chest wall rise and your belly expand with each inhalation, and then gently fall back to your spine with each exhalation, feeling the air being pushed back up out your mouth or your nose, and following the course of the air with each in-breath and with each out-breath as it enters your body and as it leaves your body. as you follow the movement of the air, just noticing how your body feels, feeling any tension or tightness evaporate with each out breath, feeling a sense of calm and balance and peace coming into your body with each in breath. And if from time to time you find that thoughts have come into your mind and that your attention has strayed and wandered from your breathing, without being too hard on yourself, gently escort your attention back to your breath, letting the thoughts come and go as you draw your focus back to your inhalation and to your exhalation. Breathing in and breathing out. And when you are ready, slowly and gently bringing yourself back into the room, feeling your body against the chair or the floor, moving your fingers or your toes, and at your own pace, allowing your eyes to open, feeling awake and alert, but calm and relaxed.
So, focusing on our breath work allows us a reset. So, it allows us to regulate our emotions and thoughts and brings us back into our body and into the present moment so we can approach an experience or thought with a fresh perspective. It's a great starting place because it's easy to do. We can do like a self-led 10 breaths exercise anywhere, and there's lots of mindfulness meditation recordings that focus on breathing as well. So before jumping into self-compassion, I just wanted to note that thus far I've included some self-directed exercise, so the 10 breaths, the noticing 5 things, and the mindfulness in different routines, as well as the guided meditation that we just listened to. to show a few different options to engage in mindfulness practices. I would like to note that I do have one more meditation, but it's a visualization meditation. So it's different to the breathwork one that we just listened to. Again, just showing different options within the variety of meditations that you can listen to. So moving now into self-compassion. Self-compassion was defined and introduced by Kristen Neff in 2003, and she defined it as 3 major components. So self-kindness, common humanity, and mindfulness. And to practice self-compassion, you want to be engaging in self-kindness. So being kind and gentle to yourself when going through a difficult experience instead of engaging in self-judgment or harsh self-criticism. She said that you want to be trying to engage in common humanity, so recognizing that imperfection is part of being human, that everyone suffers and goes through challenging times, and to connect with others, especially during those difficult times, instead of isolating yourself and going through your difficult experience alone. And she said that practicing self-compassion is engaging in mindfulness. So being able to be present, self-aware, and have perspective instead of over-identification, which is getting consumed by a repetitive thought process, kind of like stewing or ruminating over something. So mindfulness, as we've learned, allows you to have, among other, that emotion regulation, allows you to take that broader perspective. So I have a short video now, and this is Dr. Neff herself. I really love this video. I show it in a lot of my presentations. And she just does a really good job of introducing self-compassion and talking about it and how it's related to our daily lives and the culture that we live in.
Well, that's where self-compassion comes in. Okay? Self-compassion is not a way of judging ourselves positively. Self-compassion is a way of relating to ourselves kindly, embracing ourselves as we are, flaws and all. I actually define self-compassion in my research as having 3 core components. The first, you might say, is the most obvious, and that is treating ourselves with kindness versus harsh self-judgment. Treating ourselves like we treat a good friend, with encouragement, understanding, empathy, patience, gentleness. But if you stop to check in with how we treat ourselves, especially on a bad day when things aren't going so well, we are often harsher and more cruel to ourselves in the language we use. We say things to ourselves we would never say to someone we cared about. We say things to ourselves that we probably even wouldn't say to someone we didn't like very much. Okay, we are often our own worst enemy. So with self-compassion, we reverse that pattern and start treating ourselves like we treat our good friends. The second component of self-compassion is common humanity. All right, where self-esteem asks, how am I different than others? Self-compassion says, well, how am I the same as others? And one of the ways we are the same as others, what does it mean to be human? To be human means to be imperfect. All of us, everyone in the entire globe, we are imperfect as people and our lives are imperfect. That is the shared human experience. Often what happens, though, irrationally, when we notice something about ourselves, we haven't reached our goal or we're struggling in life, we feel as if something has gone wrong here. This is abnormal. This shouldn't be this way. I shouldn't be, failing to reach my goals. And it's that feeling of abnormality, a separation from others that is so psychologically damaging. We make it so much worse by feeling we're isolated in our suffering and our imperfection, when in fact, that's precisely what connects us to other people. And then the third component of self-compassion is mindfulness. Mindfulness means being with what is in the present moment. And we need to be able to turn toward, acknowledge, validate, and accept the fact that we are suffering in order to give ourselves compassion. Now, actually, oftentimes we aren't aware of our own suffering, especially when that suffering comes from our own harsh self-criticism. We get so lost in the role of self-critic, so identified with it, so identified with the part of ourselves that the back is straight saying, you are wrong, you should have done better, that we don't even notice the incredible pain we're causing ourselves. And if we don't notice what we're doing to ourselves with our harsh self-criticism, we can't give ourselves the compassion we need. So you might be asking, why do we do it? Self-criticism, we know is painful. Why do we do it? What we've actually found in research, there's a lot of reasons we're self-critical, but the number one reason is that we believe we need our self-criticism to motivate ourselves. That if we are too kind to ourselves, we will be self-indulgent and lazy. Okay? So the question is it true? Is it true? Actually, the research shows just the opposite. Self-criticism undermines our motivation, and here's why. When we criticize ourselves, we are tapping into our body's threat defense system, the reptilian brain. Okay, this system evolved so that if there was a threat to our physical person, we would release adrenaline and cortisol and prepare for the fight or flight response. Now, the system evolved for threats to our actual bodily self, but in modern times, typically the threat is not to our actual selves, but to our self-concept. So when we think a thought about ourselves that we don't like, that's some imperfection, we feel threatened. And so we attack the problem, meaning we attack ourselves. And with self-criticism, it's a double whammy because we are both the attacker and the attacked. So self-criticism releases a lot of cortisol. If you are a constant self-critic, you will have constantly high levels of stress, and eventually the body, to protect itself, will shut itself down and become depressed in order to deal with all the stress. And as we know, depression is not exactly the best motivational mind state. All right. Luckily, we aren't just reptiles, we're also mammals. Okay. There's another way we can feel safe, and that is by tapping into the mammalian caregiving system. What's unique about mammals is they are born very immature, which means a system had to be evolved in which the infant would want to stay close next to the mother and stay safe, which means our bodies are programmed to respond to warmth, gentle touch, and soft vocalizations. So when we give ourselves compassion, the research shows we actually reduce our cortisol levels and release oxytocin and opiates, which are the feel-good hormones. And when we feel safe and comforted, we are in the optimal mind state to do our best. And it's actually very easy to, well, that's where self-compassion comes in.
So now I'd like to ask a question in relation to parenting. So as a parent, have you ever experienced any of the following? So judgment from others or self-judgment, feelings of isolation, daily stressors, shame, guilt, rumination, repetitive thought processes. So all of those that I just listed are taken from different parenting populations and have been listed in research as experiences that parents have had in response to challenging parenting experiences or parenting in general. However, the authors also found that practicing self-compassion may lead to greater overall well-being, greater quality of life, increased emotional resilience, increased coping and self-regulation, and the ability to be present. So self-compassion can be very helpful for parents, and it's unique in that you can practice it in the moment. So you don't need other resources. You don't need anyone else there to be self-compassionate. So as a fast-paced, busy parent, it's actually really great in the moment as a coping resource. So now we're going to jump into a self-compassion exercise. And this is called, How Would You Treat a Friend? So I'm going to read through the activity, and then I'm going to ask you to pause the video and take some time to complete this activity. So what you do for this, it's a reflection piece. So you can either, if you have a pen and paper handy, write your responses handwritten, or if you prefer to type it on the computer, whatever, honestly, if it's best for you. I'm going to ask you to think about times or a time when a close friend or peer feels really bad about themselves or is really struggling with a challenging parenting experience. How would you respond to that individual in this situation, especially when you're at your best? So please write down or reflect on what you typically do, what you would say, and note the tone in which you typically talk to your friends. Once you've reflected on that piece, I'm going to ask you to think about a time when you feel bad about yourself or are struggling with a parenting challenge. How do you typically respond to yourself in these situations? So please reflect on what you typically do, what you say, note the tone in which you talk to yourself, and also how it makes you feel when you treat yourself or respond to yourself in that manner. Once you finish the second reflection, I'd ask you to compare and contrast. So did you notice a difference? If so, what was the difference? And why do you think that difference is there? What comes into play that leads you to treat yourself and others so differently? Finally, I'd like you to write down how or reflect on how you think things might change if you responded to yourself in the same way you typically respond to a close friend when you're suffering. So again, I'd encourage you to take the time you need to reflect and do this exercise. I know it may be tempting to continue watching this video and say you'll do it later, but you've taken the time to be here. So I would encourage you to answer these reflection questions. Pause the video, take however long you need, and when you're ready, resume. Okay, welcome back. Now we're going to jump into practical tips for skill development and behavior change. So it's important to remember that change takes time, learning new skills take time, and often we think that it's a straight shot. We'll all be mindfulness experts by tomorrow. And while that may be the case for some, often it's a lot more of a journey, takes some learning, some trying out what works and what doesn't before you are able to feel competent and comfortable in the new skill or behavior that you're trying to achieve. So keeping in mind what works for some might not work for others. So some may really love the breathing exercises. That might not fit for others. Some may really love guided meditations. For others, mindfulness may be more relevant when they're out walking in nature or doing some other activity in their daily life. It's so important that you're gentle with yourself throughout the process. So change is tough. Learning can be challenging. You're busy, you're parents, you have so much going on. So if it's not coming as quickly as you were hoping to, or you're trying out a couple things and they just don't work for you, I would encourage you to keep trying and be open-minded with the process. And again, take what practices fit for you and leave the rest. So as I mentioned earlier, often there's this image that mindfulness means, meditating and sitting in a quiet room on a pillow. And though that, again, may fit for some, there's lots of other ways that you can incorporate mindfulness and self-compassion into your daily practice. I'd also encourage you to start small, so even smaller than perhaps you're thinking right now. So often if we look at goal setting, people feel unsuccessful in the goals they've set because we have a tendency to choose changes or tasks that are too big. So if we were really looking at incorporating mindfulness small into your daily routine, so perhaps when brushing your teeth, noticing how the bristles feel on your teeth or how the toothpaste tastes, walking the dog, doing the dishes, or showering. I'd also encourage you to utilize the tools you have and the habits that already fit for you. So if you work off a calendar, set reminders in the calendar. Or if you're more electronic, you can set reminders in your phone. You can put sticky notes up. Whatever methods work for you to help with behavior change and reminders. And again, try and be gentle with yourself if you miss a day or week or not seeing progress as quickly as you would like. And if it's not really working for you, really breaking the practice down into smaller pieces. So we're now going to listen to our closing meditation, which is a visualization meditation. This is one of my favorite meditations. It's quite lovely. So I would encourage you, even if you didn't quite like the breathing one, to listen to this one and see if it's a better fit for you, because it is different.
Hello, and welcome to this guided visualization of leaves on a stream. This meditation will help you get some distance from your thoughts and feelings and to find a sense of peace and stillness. Start by moving into a comfortable position, seated or lying down. Wherever you are, come to a place of stillness and bring your attention to the breath. Breathe in through your nose, letting your lungs inflate and your ribcage expand. Suspend the breath just for a moment there before exhaling fully through the mouth. Inhale, hold for a moment, and exhale. Take a moment to scan over your body, starting at your feet and moving towards your head. Notice how you are feeling and if there are any sensations, pleasant or otherwise, in your body right now. Notice the state of your mind. Perhaps you have sought this meditation out because your mind is busy and you are feeling stressed and anxious. Whatever your experience is today, know that it's okay. Breathe into these feelings and thoughts in your body and make room for them. Paradoxically, it is by acceptance of discomfort that we find distance from it. We don't need to enjoy it or condone it, but rather just stop fighting with it. As you continue to focus on your breathing, I want you to picture yourself standing by the bank of a gently flowing stream. Watch the flowing water. Notice how it moves gracefully over the rocks, how it responds perfectly proportionately to everything it encounters on its path. Listen to the sound of the water. You might even imagine what it would be like to dip your toes in or splash it over your face. Or perhaps your mind has started to wander. That's okay. Notice it and non-judgmentally picture that thought turning into a leaf. Hold the leaf in your hands and observe it for a moment. Feel the distance between you and this leaf. Feel a sense of control that you can let it go at any moment. When you feel ready, imagine yourself gently placing this leaf into the stream and watching it as the water carries it away. Simply enjoy watching and listening to the water once more. As you notice other thoughts, feelings, or sensations arise in your body, continue to consciously take these from your body and mind and change their form into a leaf in your hands. Observe it. Allow yourself to feel a sense of mastery over it. And when you feel ready, place it into the stream. Resist the urge to change the way you are feeling or to alter your experience. Instead, just notice these urges, perhaps to speed the water up or to hold on to your leaves, or to try to stop the leaves from coming. Acknowledge the discomfort and breathe into it, making space for whatever is right now. Remember, as we stop struggling, we allow the thoughts and feelings freedom to move. As a simple observer, notice the leaves today. Notice if there are a lot or a little. Notice if they are big or small. Notice if they are getting caught on rocks or floating away with ease. If you have a lot of leaves today, you might like to imagine turning your eyes to the sky and noticing them falling. Imagine it's a beautiful autumn day and just let the leaves fall around you. You can choose to pick up and engage with as many or as little as you want. And when you are ready to put them in the stream, just watch them float away. Continue to take beautiful, full, deep breaths as you continue with this process. Avoid the temptation to judge your thoughts as they come. Simply observe them and lay them down, trusting that you may pick up any again that you need to when the time is right. But right now, allow yourself to experience stillness. If a leaf gets stuck, that's okay. There is no need to force it down the stream. The water will take it in its own time. Simply notice it there and allow it to be. Notice if the leaves have changed in any way. Without trying to change anything, notice if the leaves are coming more quickly or more slowly, if they are getting easier or more difficult for the water to carry away. Notice the sensations in your body. If there is any discomfort or impatience, try to lay it down like a leaf. Enjoy any moments of stillness that you have in your mind, but don't worry if stillness isn't coming for you today. Just allow yourself to stay present for a few moments longer. And as you feel ready, allow the image of the stream to fade and bring your attention back to the sensations of your body connecting with the earth or the chair. Gently open your eyes and notice what you see around you. Notice any noises. Find some movement in your body, wiggling your fingers and toes, or taking a stretch. And when you are ready, return to your day, bringing this sense of peace and mastery over your thoughts with you.
Wonderful. So in closing, I would just like to highlight that mindfulness is an important piece of self-compassion because it allows us to become aware of our thoughts, feelings, and bodily sensations. Once we're aware of our thoughts and feelings and bodily sensations, we can begin to notice patterns. And we can also begin to intervene and respond in a way that's a better fit for us, a way that's kinder and more connected to others and ourselves, instead of perhaps being harshly self-critical, instead of isolating ourselves or getting caught up in repetitive thought processes. I've included a few resources for you to look at if you're looking for more information or activities. So the Headspace app is a great meditation app if meditation was a good fit for you. I do believe it is a paid subscription. That being said, the selfcompassion.org, there's a few free meditations that are focused on self-compassion, as well as other self-compassion activities. And then I've also included some links with some resources for mindfulness activities for parents. And finally, I've listed a few books. So if you're looking for more information on self-compassion, The Proven Power of Being Kind to Yourself, and Fierce Self-Compassion by Dr. Kristen Neff, as well as The Happiness Trap by Russ Harris. So a note on the happiness trap, it's based on acceptance and commitment therapy, but it has a lot of mindfulness and some self-compassion resources. And it also comes in a comic form. That's the version I have, and it's a super easy read. So if you are looking more for more resources or ways to practice mindfulness and self-compassion, there's a few different resources for you there. Finally, I would like to say thank you for joining me in this presentation and participating in the activities. I know perhaps for some of you, you've never done a meditation before or done a self-reflection, so I appreciate your openness and willingness to engage in these new experiences. If you have any questions, comments, or feedback, you can email me, and I put my email down there, and I will answer your emails as soon as I can. Thank you again.